Tonight, on a special edition of TCU News Now,
we are keeping an eye on the polls as results come in across the country.
Our reporters join us from the field to give us a look at the lines in Tarrant County.
Plus, a new generation is voting for the first time. We take a closer look at how candidates are appealing to Gen Z on key issues like the economy, abortion rights, and immigration.
And which counties and states could potentially determine the winner of the presidential election. Crunching the numbers up next.
This is TCU News Now.
It's election night on TCU News Now. It's currently 6:02 on the biggest night in American politics. I'm Crystal Polglaze, along with Ryan Thorpe, Cecilia Lay, and Matea Skinner.
Voters are deciding the next leader of the free world as we speak.
and we could find out who that leader is tonight.
Here in Texas, you have 1 hour to get to the polls. Remember, if you're in line by 7 p.m., you will get to cast your ballot in the 2024 election. We're bringing you team coverage from polling locations across Tarrant County. Our reporters have been out there all day to bring you the latest. We've also got our sports team with us, keeping us up to speed on the athletes taking a shot at public office.
But first, we're gonna head out to Clay Chiarello at Pascal High School to bring us an update. Clay, what are you seeing?
Yeah, thanks guys. I'm here at Pascal High School, right behind me, where lines are looking pretty short right now, maybe about a 2 to 5 minute wait. And just a quick reminder about Tarrant County is you can vote at any other polling location in the county if the lines are too long, like possibly Tanglewood Elementary, where Taylor's live right now.
Thank you, Clay. I'm Taylor Croner, and I'm live outside of Tanglewood Elementary. Voters are inside right now, casting their final votes. Remember, your vote counts until 7 p.m. tonight. Now, let's take it over to Sarah Smith.
Thanks, Taylor. I'm here at Grace Fellowship Baptist Church, which is another polling location here in Tarrant County. The lines aren't too bad right now, but if they get long, don't worry. We've got live entertainment here with DJ Chia.
Yeah,
Why are you out here playing music at the polling sites?
Well, we out here DJ at the polls. We're representing. We want to make voting fun for everybody to enjoy, do something. In this case, we got a long line. People get bored, want to leave. We got entertainment, to dance, sing, bring a community to get back together.
And what is your message to the voters today?
Just get out and vote. No matter your personal preference, who you like, who you with, just get out and vote. Every voice need to be heard. This is your way to be heard for the next 4 years.
DJs at the polls will be playing at polling sites all across Texas and the United States. For more information, please visit djsatthepolls.org.
Here's what else you need to know about voting today. You cannot use a cell phone, camera, or computer within 100 feet of voting stations. Campaigning is also not allowed within 100 feet. That means you can't wear clothes or other items that support either political party or measure. Firearms, including handguns, are not allowed at polling places. That's according to state law.
We're following some breaking news. The Associated Press is calling Kentucky and Indiana for Donald Trump. They called Vermont for Kamala Harris. We'll have more updates through the night.
This year's election is so close. It may come down to the tallies in just a few counties and swing states. News Now, Gavin Hughes joins us to pinpoint those specific counties to watch.
Thanks, guys. Well, swing states have what we call swing counties, which can have a huge hindrance on the election. So we start in Maricopa County, Arizona. The county that Phoenix and Tempe call home as well is Arizona State University. Trump beat Clinton by 3 percentage points in 2016, but lost it in 2020 by 2. Now, there will be a lot of eyes on this part from both campaigns of Arizona. Moving on to Florida, Miami-Dade County, Latinos make up a majority of this area, where in 2012 and 2016, Democratic candidates won by more than 20 percentage points, shrinking to just 7 by Biden in 2020, something to keep an eye on. Shifting our focus to the great state of Georgia, Gwinnett County, just east of Atlanta, had one of the biggest voter share increases between 2008 and 2020. In 2016, Clinton won it by 6 points, Biden by 18 in 2020. Now let's go north, the Wolverine State in Kent County, part of that blue wall that you hear about. Romney by 8 points in 2012, Trump by 3 in 2016. In a turn of events, Biden carried that area by 6. Out to our friends in Washoe County, Nevada, home of the Capitol Reno. The Harris campaign just held a rally there a few short days ago. Clinton carried by 1 point in 2016, Biden by 5 in 2020, and the Republicans are going to need this if they want that state. The second state of that blue wall takes us to Pennsylvania. Turn to Erie County, a blue-collar county. Obama took it in 2012, Trump 2016, Biden by just 1 point in 2020. Lastly, the great state of Wisconsin, my favorite on this list. Look at Dane County on Wisconsin, home of the University of Wisconsin at Madison. The Democratic gain here helped Biden in 2020 take the state by just 20,000 votes. Honorary mention, Door County, Wisconsin, home to a great amount of people. Now, this is a lot of transplants that come from cities like Chicago and Minneapolis. So much more move there permanently to the area, and they bring those politics with them. Now, these are just a few states to keep an eye on during this 2024 election. Back to you guys.
And results from Wisconsin and Pennsylvania could be slow to come. Officials cannot open and process mail-in ballots before Election Day. Election experts and models suggest Pennsylvania, the Keystone State, will most likely decide the presidential race. Texas, on the other hand, has 24 hours after polls close to submit results.
We know there are a lot of first-time voters on campus that may have questions, like what is the Electoral College? How does the president get elected? And what is a swing state?
Here's Meg Molina and Kelsey Finley to give you all the information you need for this election.
If you've watched the news lately, you've probably seen something like this.
Look, when it comes to the polling right now, I think the safest thing to say is there are some extremely mixed signals that are coming in.
Wolf, here it is. The path to 270. All 7 battlegrounds. No one has a lead of more than 2.5 points, all within any poll's margin of error. So 270 votes, 270 electoral college votes each state.
So what exactly does all of this mean? What is the Electoral College? A candidate could win the popular vote but lose the election. It all comes down to the Electoral College. Let's dive into how it works. 270 electoral votes determine who will become the president of the free world. Smaller states, like Wyoming, only have 3 votes. Each state gets a minimum of 3 votes, 2 for its senators and 1 for its House representative. States with larger populations have more electoral votes. Take Texas, for example. They have 40. The larger the state, the more House representative votes are allocated. So what's the path to 270 votes? Harris and Trump have their respective reliable states, as we'll call them, states that consistently bleed blue or red. For 2024, it's Wyoming for Trump and Vermont for Harris. But the middle of the snake, colored faintly, marks our swing states, ones that could fall either way. This election, everyone's looking to Pennsylvania, the largest battleground prize. In 2020, it was Pennsylvania that won it for Biden. But in 2016, Pennsylvania swung for Trump. It could be Pennsylvania that determines the 47th president of the United States. As you're watching the results come in tonight, remember, it's not like a basketball game. As the numbers rise for each candidate, neither is truly taking a lead. What matters is the states, like Pennsylvania, that change colors.
For more information on how each state votes, you can visit the website 538.com.
Closer to home, all eyes are on Texas this election as the record-breaking Senate race is bringing voters to the polls. Here's Jordan Montgomery with more.
The battle for the Lone Star State has been nothing short of historic. Senator Ted Cruz and Representative Colin Allred are vying for a coveted seat in the U.S. Senate. Their campaigns have broken the record for the most expensive Senate race in American history, costing a collective $165 million. Cruz, the Republican incumbent candidate, has held the seat since 2013 and won the re-election in 2018 against Beto O'Rourke. Democratic candidate Allred entered the political scene in 2018 when elected to the House of Representatives, following a career as a civil rights attorney and an NFL linebacker for the Tennessee Titans. The candidates have been campaigning since last year, launching a slew of heated commercials and unique marketing techniques. They met for the first time in October during their only debate. Key issues for Allred include reversing the state's total abortion ban and defending the Affordable Care Act. Cruz has focused on the U.S.-Mexico border and transgender participation in sports. The polls have shifted throughout the campaign, showing Cruz winning by a narrow margin. The All Red campaign has taken a different approach to their outreach strategy, focusing on his bipartisan track record in Congress and pushing commercials. This breaks from O'Rourke's campaign tactics used in 2018, where he visited all 254 counties, which helped him come within 3 percentage points of Cruz. If All Red flips the seat, he would be the first Democratic senator from Texas since 1994. Texas residents now wait in anticipation to see the results. This is Jordan Montgomery, TCU.
This is only one of 34 seats up for grabs in the U.S. Senate. About half of those are going to be tight races, and that could well be the case here in Texas. Right now, Democrats hold the majority with 51 seats. Republicans only need to flip 2 seats to take control.
As for the House, all 435 seats are on the ballot. Here in our area, Republican Craig Goldman and Democrat Trey Hunt are both in the running for Texas' 12th congressional district. It covers West Tarrant County and most of Parker County.
We're taking a closer look at some of the most important issues on voters' minds this year. Immigration is a defining issue in the 2024 presidential race, with Harris and Trump offering very different plans. Here's Sydney Miller and Alexandria Salinas with more.
Immigration has remained a controversial political topic among U.S. citizens, with a 2024 Gallup poll showing that 28% of Americans consider it to be the nation's most pressing issue. We spoke with political science professor Dr. Grant Ferguson on what voters should pay attention to when evaluating a candidate's immigration policies.
Immigration policy is one of those issues that touches different aspects of American life in many ways. So I encourage your viewers to think about it for themselves and decide what perspective that they want on policy for citizenship and naturalization, legal and illegal immigration, visas related to tourism and other things, because all of those things are relevant to the way our country works.
Former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris are offering vastly different solutions to addressing the immigration crisis. Tonight, we'll break down both candidates' strategies.
Immigration has remained a key issue for former President Donald Trump's campaign. During his first term, Trump advocated for the reduction of both legal and illegal immigration. If re-elected, he has promised to implement and enact the largest domestic deportation in U.S. history, using the National Guard to assist with the removals. Trump also plans to reinstate the controversial Remain in Mexico policy, which requires migrants to wait in Mexico while their asylum cases are processed. And he has proposed ending birthright citizenship for children born in the U.S. to undocumented parents.
Vice President Kamala Harris offers a different approach to the issue of immigration. She aims to create pathways for citizenship for undocumented immigrants in the U.S. while also advocating for strong border security and a crackdown on drug smuggling. Harris has criticized Trump for worsening the border crisis by rejecting a bipartisan Senate compromise earlier this year. The proposed bill sought to tighten asylum standards and hire more border agents, immigration judges, and asylum officers. Harris has stated that if she is re-elected, she will bring back the bill and sign it into law.
It's not just the presidential candidates pushing different immigration policies. We're also seeing a divide between Texas's U.S. Senate candidates, Ted Cruz and Colin Allred.
Thanks, guys. We know this was a big issue for voters in Texas. We'll bring you more in-depth coverage of high-impact political issues throughout the show. We checked, and there are no measures on the ballot in Fort Worth, but one in Dallas caught our attention.
It's the Dallas Freedom Act, meant to decriminalize having less than 4 ounces of marijuana if you're over 21 years old. Republican Governor Greg Abbott and State Attorney General Ken Paxton are against the effort to change cannabis regulations at the local level. But the measure did get support from Texas native and country music icon Willie Nelson. He endorsed the measure in October, saying that it is, quote, long past time to end the criminalization of weed. Nelson has been arrested numerous times for possession of marijuana since 1974. In Texas, law enforcement agencies logged nearly 200,000 arrests for cannabis possession from 2018 to 2023. That's according to FBI arrest data cited by the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws.
Now we're taking a closer look at the economy plans for both Trump and Harris. What are their proposals and what could that mean for voters, especially when it comes to federal student relief, jobs, and consumer spending? All of those are big issues that impact college students. Here's Elwood.
As the election approaches, economic policy has become a key issue for voters. With concerns over student debt, job opportunities, and healthcare costs, Dr. Gardner, an economics professor, shared his concerns.
I would be very comfortable predicting or hypothesizing that costs will rise for the consumer.
Poll data by the Pew Research Center shows that the economy is a top issue for voters in this election. Candidate Donald Trump has emphasized his plan to bring back tariffs on foreign goods.
Trump's tariffs policies, I think, are broad spectrum, non-targeted tariffs, like the ones that Trump and his campaign are proposing, will increase costs. They serve almost kind of like a tax.
Vice President Kamala Harris has laid out plans to expand the child tax credit and Medicaid coverage, which would provide financial relief to millions of families.
In relation to the Harris campaign's child tax credit, I think what that does is increase spending power. So we would expect to see maybe more spending on certain items for families with young children.
President Biden's student debt relief program has provided significant relief for borrowers, but question remains about whether Vice President Harris would maintain or expand it if elected. For far too long, our nation has encouraged only one path to success, a 4-year college degree, Harris said in September. Her comment hints at support for alternative education pathways, potentially expanding options beyond traditional student debt relief.
Student debt relief is big for Gen Z voters as they head to the polls and prepare to enter the job market.
The polls have started to close already on the East Coast, but a lot of eyes are on the swing states. Which way will they vote, Republican or Democrat? Gavin Hughes is back with how some of them voted in the last 2 presidential elections. Gavin?
Thanks, y'all. Now, I'm sure we're all familiar with the concept of a state being a stronghold. A state like New York, a Democratic stronghold. A state like our beloved Texas, a Republican stronghold. States that can pretty much be predicted without much analytics. Now, let's turn to the previous 2 elections. Great state of Georgia. Now, Georgia went red in 2016 in favor of Trump, but infamously in 2020 went blue. Sort of a shock to both sides, but an area where voter turnout will be crucial to both campaigns. Arizona, same story. Red in 2016, but blue in 2020. Now, annually between 2016 and 2020, 64,000 Californians moved to the state each year. That number jumped to 74,000 in 2022. Why is this important? Well, you ever been to Arizona? Beautiful land. Go golfing, go watch the Suns play, maybe go dirt biking. But those Californians can also bring those ideas with them, an infamously blue state. Now, this will be a pivotal state in this election. We'll look forward to seeing what unfolds. Now,
We here at TCU News Now have been following this election closely, but Dr. Adam Schiffer has been made following politics his entire career. He's been teaching political science at TCU for 22 years. Ryan, you were able to ask him a little bit about the election, right?
I did. Yeah, we had a great conversation about why this election stands out. Check it out. All right, so this campaign season has been like no other. We've seen a nominated candidate drop out, 2 assassination attempts, garbage trucks, and podcasts. Is this like any other election you've ever studied before?
No, I mean, we've had some pretty crazy elections in American history, like 1968, where not the nominated candidate, but a presumed frontrunner was actually murdered. So they had to substitute someone in at the last minute, and the choice was so unpopular that his own party rioted. So that was pretty crazy, but I wasn't around then, and you certainly weren't around then. So as far as our election viewing lifetime, this is the craziest election, yes.
Okay, there we go. Awesome. So can you tell us a little bit more about the polls? How do we know we can trust them? Will they be as skewed as 2016?
Well, that's a good question. First of all, they weren't that bad in 2016. The national polls were pretty close. They were within 2 points of the actual result, which is actually better than polls' historic average. The state polls, particularly in the Midwestern swing states that unexpectedly swung to Trump, were a little farther off. They were more like 4 to 6 points off, which is still not that bad for state polls, but of course they were situated perfectly where we all thought that Clinton was going to win, and everybody, up to and including Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, were shocked on election night. So the 2020, we don't think about the polls quite as much because they predicted Biden would win and he won, but the polls were actually significantly worse in 2020 than 2016. The pollsters thought they had fixed what ailed them in 2016, but it turns out they were farther off. And worse, they spent a long time, the best minds in polling and the scholarship of polling spent lots of time and resources studying what went wrong in 2020 to try to correct it, and they have no idea. Their conclusion was just a one big shrug emoji. So So what may happen this year, of course, the bad news is, again, we don't know what happened in 2020. Both times Donald Trump has been on the ballot, he has been underestimated. And so there's certainly a hypothesis that, yeah, he may be underestimated for a third time. It's never not happened. But on the other hand, that's a sample size of 2 that we're making inferences from. So we can't be that confident.
So kind of touching on that, the accuracy of the polls, do you have any prediction for who's going to win?
No. Well, okay. Again, as I think dead even is a prediction.
Okay.
And a lot of people disagree with me on that. They say, oh, that's a cop-out. But I think dead even is a prediction. If somebody ends up winning by 4 or 5 points, I was wrong, and you can hold me accountable for that. But I think, again, because of what I just laid out, the idea that they're less likely to underestimate Trump, I think there are some factors riding underneath the surface, like the women's vote in the wake of Roe v. Wade being overturned, that we have talked about somewhat, but are probably underplaying a bit in favor of trivia like garbage and the other things that have happened.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
I mean, if you're going to force me to make a prediction that involves saying one of their names, I think I would say that I would overall probably rather be in Harris's camp than Trump's camp tonight. But that's a very weak prediction. And I know I just said it on camera in front of everybody, so you're welcome to make fun of me if that turns out to be wrong. But again, I still think, I think for a number of reasons the polls are likely to be fairly accurate. But you have to understand something about a dead even prediction. That means the median outcome is a tie. But that doesn't mean the modal outcome is a tie. In other words, if you think back to statistics, the median is the middle, right? The middle prediction here, the point prediction is it's a tie. But the modal outcome, that means the most likely outcome, is either Trump winning all 7 swing states or Harris winning all 7 swing states. Just depends on which way the polls are wrong.
Okay.
Brian, that was an amazing conversation you were able to have there. What were some of your biggest takeaways?
Yeah, so Dr. Schiffer obviously talked a lot about the polls and their accuracy coming into this year, just because of the issues that the country has seen over the past couple of election cycles. And so it was a great conversation to have with somebody who really knows his stuff much better than I ever do.
Absolutely.
Coming up, some candidates for office are no strangers to high-stakes situations. Find out which professional athletes are vying for office today.
And what happens if the election is tied? Has it ever happened before? We've got some answers coming up after the break.
There are those who see the world through a different lens, who take risks, who are willing to make a stand. Because trails, they aren't blazed by the timid, but by the bold. For 150 years, TCU has been creating the next generation of leaders. To think audaciously, care compassionately, lead heroically. And now, it's our turn, our time to lead on.
Welcome back to the TCU News Now Election Night Special. We're watching the polls and covering the issues that affect you. Right now, we're looking at Tarrant County's ballot boardroom. It's currently 6:26 p.m., meaning you have less than an hour to get to the polls if you haven't voted yet. Remember, if you're in line by 7 p.m., you will get to make your voice heard in this critical election.
Now over to Gavin and Emil to tell you how sports ties into this year's election season.
Performing under pressure with millions of people watching. That's the life of both athletes and politicians.
And this election features 2 potential United States senators that have lived both lifestyles. Steve Garvey is a former MLB player for the Dodgers and Padres who is now the Republican Party nominee for the 2024 United States Senate for the state of California. During his MLB career, he was a 10-time All-Star, won the Golden Glove Award 4 times, and was a National League MVP in 1974. He was also a World Series champion in 1981 and a playoff hero just a few years later. During Game 4 of the 1984 NLCS, Garvey hit a walk-off home run, forming his most iconic moment in his professional baseball career.
Shifting our focus to a race for the Senate in Texas, another candidate has experience in a different popular American sport. Colin Allred was a linebacker at the University of Baylor from 2001 to 2005. The peak of his career came during the stretch his senior year at Baylor, where he racked up 73 tackles, 9 tackles for loss, 5.5 sacks, and returned an interception for a touchdown. Baylor unfortunately went 5-6 during that season, leading Allred to be an undrafted free agent signing by the Tennessee Titans. His professional career only featured 46 tackles over 4 years as a member of the Titans, but his focus shifted over to politics as a result. Allred served as a member of the House of Representatives for the 32nd District of Texas starting in 2018, and after winning the Texas Senate Democratic primary, he is set as the candidate challenging Ted Cruz for the position.
Some people think the ties between the election and NFL football run deeper than just a former player being the candidate for the U.S. Senate. However, the theory regarding the commander's rule has been floating around for a few weeks now. Dating back to 1940, the last game before the election for the Washington Commanders has correlated to the presidential election results. When the team won, the incumbent party was predicted to keep the White House, and vice versa when they lost.
Since 2004, the trend has flipped, however, as the challenging party has won the presidential election if the last Washington home game before the election is a victory for the Commanders. Although it's only a fun coincidence, the rule has aligned with the results 17 of the last 19 elections. And now you're wondering, this is the home game that the Commanders just played before today.
And it's going to be getting longer by the second. You're all the way back at the 30-yard line. Now you can step into it. Here comes the Hail Mary with the game on the line. And the ball is caught! Caught! It's a miracle! It's Noah Brown! Oh my goodness! This town is going crazy! It's a madhouse in Landover, Maryland!
As a Packer fan, it doesn't get much better than that. Finally, the third and final Major League American sport that has ties into the election. The NBA decided to cancel all games today to encourage fans to participate, and every single team that played yesterday wore warm-up t-shirts that said vote in bold capital letters on the front. That's all we have for sports here on election night. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Emil and Gavin. We want to get back to some of the big issues impacting voters. That includes abortion rights, where do the candidates stand, and what are their promises? Here's Emily Fincher with a closer look at that.
Reproductive rights have been a controversial issue in the U.S. for decades. This election marks the first since the overturning of Roe v. Wade in 2022. According to Pew Research Center, reproductive rights are one of the top 3 priorities for American voters in this election cycle, with healthcare and abortion ranking as the primary issue among young female demographics. Here's TCU sociology professor Elizabeth Toombs with a breakdown of reproductive rights in America from past to present.
We had a long period of history where family planning wasn't, I would say, a concern. Birth control wasn't invented till 1960. So really that wasn't as much of a widespread kind of legislative issue until the women's rights movement. During this time, women started to enter back into the workplace. So that really changed a lot of public perception. And it really, in that kind of economic shift, women started to have more of a voice about those kinds of decisions. Prior to Roe versus Wade, there were significantly varied laws in terms of access to abortion, and we see an uptick in kind of these unsafe procedures. First, in terms of maternal health, we know that certain people are in different positions, especially lower socioeconomic status or people that are a part of minority race or ethnic groups, having the inability to access abortions, safe and legal abortions, significantly increases the risk of death. It increases the risk of an infection, all of kind of the personal risks for information about access to safe and legal abortions does for us at a societal level. You know, just looking at texas.gov, if you need more information on what actually is going on in terms of all the legal changes. depending on kind of what you need, there's some that will suit you if you're looking for just kind of that literacy, and then if you do need information about access.
By the end of tonight, we will find out just how important abortion policies and family planning regulations were to American voters. I'm Emily Fincher. Back to you guys at the
Today, a county in Arizona is using snipers to defend its polling locations. Earlier tonight, we told you about Maricopa County, Arizona. It saw criminal activity on election day 4 years ago. Now, Maricopa County officials have snipers stationed on rooftops near polling locations and are actively scanning social media for threats. According to the Arizona Secretary of State, over 1 million people voted early in Maricopa County, with a surge of voters expected today.
Counties around the country are increasing their security measures, and the nation's capital is no different. Take a look at this picture sent into our newsroom from Aaron Fortunato in Washington, D.C. This is near the White House on Pennsylvania Avenue. Barricades and increased police presence are popping up at many locations around the city, including the Capitol and the Washington Monument.
With the polls showing both candidates in a dead heat, it's important to understand what could happen if there's a tie. To be clear, the chances of this happening, according to experts, is less than 1%. If neither candidate reaches 270 electoral votes, Congress would decide the next president. Here's how it works. The House of Representatives would choose the president. Representatives from each state would have to agree on one candidate, and each state gets one vote. The candidate who receives 26 votes wins. That's not all, though. The Senate would then select vice president based on the two vice presidential candidates with the most electoral votes. This candidate will need 51 votes to win. It's only happened once in American history, in 1876, when the House of Representatives chose Rutherford B. Hayes after disputed results in Florida, South Carolina, and Louisiana.
Following some more breaking news, the Associated Press is calling West Virginia for Donald Trump. That's 4 more electoral votes for him. That leaves Donald Trump with 23 electoral votes and Kamala Harris with 3.
Well, we may not know the winner of this year's election for a few days. One city in New Hampshire counted every citizen's vote by 12:06 this morning. Dixville Notch, New Hampshire has a total of 6 registered voters, all of whom cast their ballots as the clock struck 12. And the results? 3 for Trump and 3 for Harris. Not surprising considering how the rest of the country is looking. Ryan, that's insane to me. What do you think?
Dixville Notch, where is that? I've never heard of it. I've never known anybody to hear about Dixville Notch, but Matea, we actually apparently had one of our professors in our journalism department that has visited Dixville Notch. Who do you think that might be?
I'm going to have to go with our very own John Tisdale.
That would be correct. It would be Dr. John Tisdale. And of course, as he reported, in Dixville Notch, there's not much to see. So it doesn't make that much, it's not a huge surprise that there's only 6 registered voters.
It's no surprise both Harris and Trump are actively reaching out to Gen Z. The age group ranges from around 12 to 29 years. It will likely make up a good portion of the electorate, according to Pew Research. About 36% of voters were under 50 in the 2022 midterms. Both candidates are reaching out to young voters on social media, podcasts, and some last-minute publicity events.
According to the Associated Press, Trump was seen last week riding in a garbage truck after Biden suggested Trump's supporters were garbage. Then Kamala Harris made an appearance on Saturday Night Live, cracking jokes with Mayor Rudolph. Take a listen.
I took care of them when they had the big hurricanes, and nobody gets along better with Puerto Rico.
To vote for us. Great. Any chance you are registered in Pennsylvania? Nope, I am not. Well, it was worth a shot. And live from New York, it's Saturday!
All right, guys, tell me about it. Did you watch it?
I would be honest, Saturday Night Live is not really my thing. I don't really watch it, but I did watch that and I thought it was a good segment.
Yeah, I was able to see it on Saturday night, and so I think that obviously for Vice President Harris and former President Trump, it's got to be a stressful time for them right now, especially with the election happening today. So I think it's really cool that they were able to, appear on Saturday Night Live just to make some light with the stressful situation going on. How about you, Crystal?
Yeah, I think it's amazing they can laugh about it for sure.
Awesome.
As the day is wrapping up, here is where the two presidential candidates will be. Harris is at Howard University, her alma mater, with a crowd of supporters. Her decision to spend today in Washington is based on the deep impact the university had on her desire to become a lawyer. Harris launched her presidential campaign at Howard back in 2019. What a full circle moment. She plans to address the audience soon.
Meanwhile, Trump is in West Palm Beach, Florida. He's spending time between his estate at Mar-a-Lago and the Palm Beach Convention Center. His supporters are gathered there for a watch party that will be streamed live. We'll make sure to show you the latest from their parties as the night continues.
From presidential to local offices, our crews will keep a close eye on the races. Our partners at the Associated Press will call the winners in real time. And Gavin Hughes can walk us through how that's done. Gavin?
You might wonder, where are we getting these results? Well, TCU 360 relies on the numbers posted and published by the Associated Press. The AP has 4,000 vote count reporters across the country who work with local election officials to get the data directly from polling locations. AP has the ability to make as many as 20,000 updates per hour. Be sure to check back with us here at TCU News Now at the top of every hour as we bring you the results as the numbers roll.
Thanks, Gavin. And just a reminder, we've already seen results from Vermont, Indiana, Kentucky, and West Virginia. Remember, we'll keep you updated on the returns as they come in on TCU360.com. Look for updates every hour tonight online and on our social media pages at TCU360.
That's it for this special broadcast of Election Night in the U.S.
Polls here in Texas will close shortly at 7 p.m. There's still time for you to vote and have your voice heard.
From all of us in the studio and TCU 360, thank you for watching.
We'll see you back here at 7.